If you clicked on this video, you just want to see this. The Fujifilm X100VI. And you're probably thinking to yourself right now, that camera essentially looks exactly the same. And that's because it is the same design. And that's not a bad thing, but what's more important is the few upgrades that they made to the internal side of this camera that, in my opinion, make it the perfect everyday camera. Now, I am gonna work on a longer form review, but I thought I'd give you my initial thoughts after using this for the last 2 weeks while roaming around Portugal. But right now, I am currently on my way to the X Summit in Japan, so I thought I would share my thoughts as we head to Tokyo. This is where the vloggers go, let's go! And then they hit the okay, we're gonna go. Okay, let's go. Hey, there we go. Okay, some of the key features inside this camera. We got 40.2 megapixels and IBIS. Those are pretty much the only two I care about. I might go into a few more other things that I like about this, but let's talk about why those two things are the most important through my perspective and why that makes this such a great camera. The beef that I had with the X100V is that it was 26 megapixels. So if I wanted to like zoom in or crop in on an image, I literally had to physically move closer in order to get the shot. At the end of the day, that was a limiting factor. Now with 40 megapixels, this makes it way more appealing, specifically when you're using the digital teleconverter feature. So all you have to do is press this hotkey right here, you select the digital teleconverter and see, so now you can zoom in and zoom out. And on the old one, on the closest zoom in or the digital crop on that, it was just like unusable. You can notice how low quality it was. With this, it's actually usable. Also funny, I didn't bring a tripod with me, so I'm just gonna cut to the fact that I'm using a cup right now for this shot. And the other feature that I was mentioning is the IBIS. Now, I did get the chance to go out on a sailing experience when I was in Portugal, so why don't we cut to that situation and that scene there to show you how good this is when it comes to the video side of things. This camera does have 422 color and 10-bit, so I really want to see if the F-Log looks good when we color grade it, as well as the autofocus. I thought what better spot than on a boat that's moving at sunset. I would say that the IBIS is about like 80 to 90% of the way there. When you are like walking in a movement like this, you do see a little bit of that warping on the edges. But overall, I would say that like when you're comparing the X100V to the X100VI, it is like leaps and bounds better, especially for low light photography. That's where this is also going to be huge for street photographers. I think specifically when you're shooting at night, one of the problems I used to have in the past is that I'd always just like leave my camera on aperture priority and then I'd shoot in the evening and I wouldn't boost my ISO up, and then I look back at the photos and be like, oh, they're all blurry. And then I have to be like, it's an artistic choice that they're all blurry. It means that you'll have sharper images for street photography, and I think that's gonna be a huge selling point to people who like to just use this to capture in the moment quick pics. So the IBIS, massive feature for this camera. You have a new film emulation, Real Ace. This is essentially like the best looking normal film emulation. Here are a few example shots that I have from just like exploring Portugal. Specifically, even just editing the JPEGs on your phone or on your computer with this emulation just looks so good. Now, some feedback on the battery. It's the same battery as the previous model, and in my opinion, the batteries are not the absolute best they can be. You're getting about 450 photos, but now if you're gonna start shooting video, you might just need to carry an extra like 2 to 3 batteries with you. Luckily, they are very small, it's not a big deal. And a couple other things that I do like is that you got 6.2K 30 frames per second, you got 4K 60 frames per second, and 240 frames at 1080p, which just means, again, you have a usable video camera for 2024 filmmaking. So So here are just the general final thoughts I have on this camera. Similar to the 911 Porsche series, I think what ended up happening is that you have the same design that's just been refined over and over again. And I think that's what's happening here with Fujifilm, is they've taken something that already works and has worked very well for the last 4 years and just refined it and made it match the standards and the expectations that we have for a camera in 2024. When you're looking at something like this really is supposed to be a shoot from the hip, lightweight, travel, take it with you. They've jam-packed a lot into a small body, and now the ability to have 40 megapixels, IBIS, and just all the other little features that are involved, like pre-shot and Reala Ace, like these are the things that we want as photographers, to have this nostalgic film aesthetic, but something that you can carry with you daily. Also, I wanted to wait until X Summit was officially announcing the price. It is $1,599 USD, which I think is great value for a 40 megapixel camera. In terms of my thoughts on it selling out, I think you're gonna be in the exact same scenario where there's gonna be a ton of pre-orders and a very, very long wait list for this. If you're interested in pre-ordering this camera, I'll leave links to Henry's camera if you're from Canada, as well as B&H if you're from the States. All right, everybody, now I'm officially going.